So anyway, I listened to your video uh, earlier about don't ask how,
Yeah.
uh, and I commented in my video today, and actually I made comments on your video that sometimes it's really hard for me anyway not to want to know, well, how is this going to happen? I mean,
Yeah.
we know where we want to go, and we don't see how to get there.
But that's because we're conditioned to look at the how. This is there are two very tricky conditionings that I have become aware of the dynamic of lately, and one is the how, which I did that video, your uniqueness and the how, and that's all about you have your own unique connection to the all, the everything, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it. And then there will be people who try and teach you a method. And of course, what I've been looking at this week is the Ubuntu Party. I don't know if you heard about them. And Michael Tellinger.
Yes.
Ubuntu, whatever you want to call it, yeah.
Yes.
Michael Tellinger. And I saw a couple of quick clips by Michael Tellinger where he's talking about value. And I had to think of our last conversation where you said, well, if I could get rid of something, I'd get rid of the money system. And I've realized, and sorry if I'm sounding and looking a bit rough, I'm sort of recovering from a rather hefty swine flu at the moment that's going around here. It's really nasty.
Goodness.
Yeah, my family's been sick with it for 3 weeks, so I'm sort of pretty much over it in a week. But yeah, so if I'm sounding and looking rough, that's why. So to get back to Michael Tellinger, and one thing that he said really made the coin drop for me on value and why we believe in the money system. So if I take us back to really early childhood and early schooling, and what schooling should do is say, hey kid, what are you good at? Let's find that out. Let's work with that. Let's see if we can provoke the passion for that which you have in you, and let's bring out your passion, which is how we meant to live. We meant to live joyfully and passionately. Okay, but unfortunately, because we got stuck, we got sold on the idea of value, and we got sold on the idea of value even before money was introduced. Even the idea of barter is still value. I have an orange, 2 apples, you got a banana, I want a banana. What do I trade you for it? Is the orange more valuable than the apple? So what Ubuntu is saying is get rid of the idea of value altogether, because value is, and that's when I recognize it, value is a conditioning. Value is a conditioning that makes us believe in the representation of money. Okay, and so instead of being in school, being taught, being helped to teach ourselves to find this passion within in what our natural ability is, we now have to say, well, we're going to apply a method, a curriculum, whereby this student gets taught how to get as much value as possible out of their education and how to attain as much value in their life as possible. So the whole idea of education has now shifted from what it should be. I help you to be joyful and passionate and creative. And therefore, I'm not a teacher. I don't give you a how because I'm just helping you. I'm exploring your passion with you. We're doing this together. So there's no hierarchy in that either. So now we're looking for value. So we set up a curriculum by which children can be compared against the standards of the curriculum so as to get as much how as possible to attain as much value as possible. That's how we all end up doing crappy jobs that we hate just to make the representation of money, just to fit in the damn corporate boxes. Okay, so this conditioning of value is extremely important because it goes hand in hand with the how. And the method used, the thing used to measure is comparison. That's the other conditioning. So we're hurting these children and we're hurting ourselves by constantly looking for value and then establishing a how to get the value with somebody who's going to lead you down the steps, somebody who knows, somebody who is hierarchically above you to teach you. And so these 3 things go hand in hand. There's this how, this value, this how, and by means of comparison. is how we're really getting drawn into this money and hierarchical paradigm. Now, I find that, I've been following your little stash with Bill, and I got to say, I love you guys both.
Yeah,
And
I do
honestly,
too. And I mean, I've been very surprised by his reaction. I
I've,
mean,
I've
that's
been
blown me away.
I've been surprised and not surprised, because at the moment, when we extend the whole idea of the value and the how to our spiritual life, then we often come up with these really hierarchical spiritual schemes. You see, you have to detach yourself from the third dimension, so you become fourth dimensionally aware, and then at the next level of how, then you open this gate, and then you become aware in the fifth dimension. And when you look back at what we were talking about before, is that there is that idea of that how and that value inherent, extended from our financial, professional schooling life to our spiritual life, because that's how we've been conditioned. So we say this how, and this teacher comes who's a master who's ascended above us in the hierarchy. And now, I'm not ridiculing that sort of thinking, okay, because I lived by that sort of hierarchical spirituality for a long time myself.
Me too.
And I understand. And I got to say that, yes, we are victims of our conditioning, but when you look at the human resilience, you got to pat people on the back and say, despite all this crap conditioning and this crap system that you've grown up in, you've actually come to recognize a lot of it. Wow, everybody is doing really well, you know? And that's something that needs to be said. We're all doing well. Bill's doing well. I'm doing well. You're doing well. Loads of people that are waking up with us in their own way are doing really, really well. And so often enough, we look at all political systems too. There's how and there's value. Like communism had a different how, but it had a similar value. It still had money, and it still had achievement and curriculum. And so we all get along spiritually really nicely if the value doesn't come into it. We can just say, oh, our hows are different. Bill believes in this hierarchy, and good on him, because despite all this, he has found his own way of expression in it. And Ron does his workshops, and he mixes all these sort of systems and is finding he's found his way despite his conditioning. So as long as the how is just the only difference, we're quite happy to say, well, I really respect Ron, and his how is different from mine, but that's just the way he does it. But as soon as there is a perception of the value of something being touched, because I know you do, and you don't resonate with Bill, and you do resonate with Bill when you're both going, oh, our hows are different. Oh yeah, let's have a good talk. But when your sense of value gets touched, okay, because we're so conditioned that we have to chase after this value materially, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. When your sense of how gets touched, when your sense of value gets touched, it hurts. It hurts because it's really, really basic conditioning that we're all so almost blind to. And so as long as the how is different, we're okay. But when somebody touches our sense of value and says, well, I've done this and you haven't done that yet, that hurts you in a sense of value. And the moment that, because we're also hurt by our achievement towards this value, because we're also hurt, when somebody pushes that button in you, it really, really hurts. So as long as the how is different, that's okay. But when we get touched on the value, man, it hurts. It really hurts. And so what I'm perceiving around me in the world is that the whole world is waking up to this conditioning of value, okay? And that collectively as well as individually in our own paths, if you want to call it that, because as soon as you say there's no how, there's no path either. There's just dropping all the crap and just becoming your natural self, which is what my philosophy is. So we're all coming up against this value. We're all coming up against this conditioning of value. And in all our lives, it's like a higher self, soul, whatever you want to call it. is saying, look at this conditioning, and if you can't see what I'm saying, I'm going to give you some pain to think about, And so what happened between you and Bill is that Bill touched your sense of value. He did, and it hurt. I could see you being very hurt, and I don't often see that. So you had to have that touched because you're making that shift with all of us. We're all making that shift. We don't want money anymore, and we don't want this value. We just want to live naturally and be and express and be creative. So when you come up to a shift, it really hurts. Okay, it hurts like hell, and I know that from my own experience. That when people point something out to me that I need to shift, then it touches your sore in you, and then your first reaction will be to externalize that. Why did you attack me? And Bill is usually, really laid back and calm and having a good laugh, and I'm seeing Bill rebutting, and I'm going, that's not like you. Why are you so irritated? Why are you so irritated when you're pointing out to somebody that they're still in the system? So there's something there. See, what you did at that particular point in time was you usually get along really well because the how's okay. We've learned to deal with that. But as soon as you touched some sense of inner value on each other, it erupted into a quote unquote an argument. And so if you actually look at what's really happened, then it's actually two people actually helping each other out. That's what it looks like to me, right? And this is just my opinion. But it's actually two people helping each other out to shift something internally. And so I don't see this as like, a few people have sort of commented, have you heard of what's going on with Ron and Bill? And so I've had a look and I thought, oh yeah, they're both shifty. And the first reaction with the shift is that you kind of make that external story. And then when that hurt settles down, you start to think about it. And then, gradually, bit by bit by bit, because we are people who want to grow or want to lose the growth that we don't need, because we're people who want to shift, who want a better world, that love will again bring us to that without the story. And eventually, when you come to the conditioning without the story attached to it, then you see it clearly. And when you see it clearly, when you observe it clearly, there is no how to get rid of it, because the actual fact of seeing it clearly is the how itself. So I say there's no how and there's no value. And I know that's really, really hard to understand for people. But I find from my experience, because I don't talk about anything that I don't experience. I don't believe in anything. And if I do believe in it because I have it on a very good respected authority, then I'll say I believe. But for me, this observing these conditionings is the way to total freedom. And life will keep pointing out to us. If we're not doing it internally, then externally it will be pointed out to us. So somebody will come up into our life and push that sore spot and say, here, heal this shadow, Buster. And then we'll react against the outer, and then love will settle in, and then we'll see it as an inner process, and then we will actually observe it as it is, and we will drop it. So you and Bill are actually performing a very valuable function for each other at this particular point with this debate, because I've never seen
Bill. I would venture to say not just for the two of us.
No, because you're both somewhat larger than yourselves, okay? You're both pretty much people with, a filled-up Facebook dance card and lots of people who follow your videos. So nothing is just for ourselves anymore, there is an influence, and a very good influence, that both you guys have on so many people, because you're helping so many people to reflect upon themselves and to improve themselves in ever so many ways, and that's what I love you both dearly for. You're just such beautiful people, and I say that from the bottom of my heart. I do appreciate both you guys so much, but it's now up to both you guys, I think, just to see that you are actually performing a function for each other, and one that comes at a good time. You're actually helping each other out, believe it or not. You take the personal story and the you said and he said, but you look at it in terms of value, and Bill's got to look in terms of a value that has inside, because there's nothing wrong with having different hows. We know that.
Yeah. You
That's my
started
take on
out.
that.
You
Sorry. Yeah.
started out with the education system,
Yeah.
and earlier in the week, a couple 3 days ago, I don't remember exactly when it was, I came across one of the TED talks by a computer scientist from India, a teacher, computer scientist, and he kept hearing all of these parents coming and saying, I've got this gifted child," and he thinks, why is it only the rich people that have gifted children? And they had computers. So he did experiments. He put computers into rural communities, didn't teach the kids anything, just left them alone with computers.
Yeah.
No training at all. And then he would come back in a period of time and was amazed at how they taught themselves with no
Yeah.
teacher. And it totally upended the whole communication or the whole education paradigm of we've got to teach humans how to be creative.
Yeah.
Humans are creative.
Yes.
Left,
And
left to our own creativity, we will automatically create, even from an early age. And it was
yes.
such an eye-opening video for me, just listening to him
Mm,
share the story of these children.
curiosity and passion. You see. When it comes to observing conditioning, that is my thing. Is there something that gets me going? Yeah, curiosity and passion. For observing and exposing the conditioning. That's what I live for. That is when I have one of these flashes, like the flash about value and understanding what Michael Tellinger was about, and how it related to the how, and it just there is just no better feeling for me. I'm the quarterback who came from behind and ran through the whole team and kicked a field goal, and I'm just dancing on the lines, going, yeah, I'm the man. And that's what those kids were doing when they were playing with the computers. That curiosity and that passion and that natural ability, that natural intelligence, that's in all of us. And we have been at such a fundamental level. We have just been, and fract is the word that keeps coming to my mind, is that they've actually, like when they're doing coal seam gas extraction, they crack and they frack the shell, and they pump it full of chemicals and rubbish, and then extract their value out of it, and ruin the water table. And our psyche has been fracked by this conditioning. It literally has been raped by this conditioning. And because we're also desperately seeking for value, we become so lost in just our little self. And we become so lost that even the violence of a child, how many children have died during the course of this conversation of starvation and waterborne disease, and we even accept that because we have to get this value. We have to be secure for ourselves. We don't have time to stop and think about our own passion. So therefore, why would we have compassion for anybody else? Because we're not allowed to show our own passion or to delve into our own passion, which is the wonderful thing that this life is the ability to delve into the passion. And so because we're not allowed to, it's okay for other people not to be able. So we become insensitive. We become desensitized, and we become hard of heart. And
Yeah,
and
yeah, and then I posted another TED talk right after that one of a young lady who said that most important lesson she learned in a mental hospital. And and she goes on to say that she's always been really sensitive to things, but her sensitivity wasn't appreciated uh, in her real world experience. And so
Yep.
she tried to escape by taking drugs and alcohol and sex and all of the things that so many people use to
All the
numb
good stuff.
themselves, to numb themselves from the uh,
Yeah.
interaction and the observation of a culture that's insane. And so she got to go to a mental hospital where they actually talked about their feelings, and that was encouraged and very
Yep.
therapeutic and healing for her. And
Yep.
she discovered that it was okay to be sensitive. And that's
Yep.
part of the thing that I have with some of the people that seem to want to escape from the world and not touch that
Yes.
sensitivity
Yes.
and the passion of wanting to bring justice and wanting to bring equality. And,
Yes.
and, and I have so
Absolutely.
many friends. It's not about Bill. It's not about Bill for me. It's an issue that's much bigger than
Yeah.
Bill or me or
Yeah.
anybody else.
Yeah. But
It's a
you got to,
desensitization.
yeah. But on another level, people like Bill do hold a space too. And despite the how and the value, I mean, that's what I'm saying, the human resilience, give ourselves a pat on the back, everybody. Despite all this conditioning, we still find our own individual ways, even within the constraints of compliance, of following this path. And Bill is one of those people too, you know. And Bill holds the space. I know. I can feel. I can sense his.
Me
You know,
too.
I'm not some energetic observer or who knows a million hows of how to look at energy and people's auras and soul contracts and all that sort of stuff. And I haven't activated my golden pyramid energy whilst transversing through the universe whilst reading the Akashic records and manifesting a hot dog vendor to make me one with everything. I'm not one of those people, but I feel, because I dare to be open and I dare to be vulnerable, and I'll state that about myself. I'm sensitive and I feel the pain of the world, and I do that on a bed of bliss though. But I feel that, and I can also feel people's energy sometimes, and Bill holds a space, and that is a
Indeed, he
matter
does.
of that's a matter of function, not value. You see?
Right, and that was what
So
Spirit gave me. My very first video after Bill and I did our video together, our conversation. My very first one is Spirit was saying he's just playing a different role than you, and it's okay.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and that's what I thought I was communicating, and then he responded by saying no, my way. I mean, from my perception, he was saying my way is the right way. And
yeah,
and
yeah. But
that's just like I would react to any fundamentalist anything saying that it's only got to be their way.
my mother bless her heart always said that when we kids were fighting, if there's two fighting, there's two at fault, and that was her golden rule, and it always applied, no matter who started what. There were always, in the reconciliation session with mum, there were always two children fighting, and there were two at fault. And there's nobody at fault here, but something has been, you guys touched something in each other, and there is something that was there to be touched. If somebody walks past me and says, I hate you, you stupid black nigger, then it kind of doesn't hurt me because, well, I'm not black and I'm not stupid, and there's nothing that it just wafts through me, right? I don't resist it because why would I? It doesn't apply to me. So I put no value in that insult. So there is, you've both touched each other. You've had a bit of a tiff. You've had a bit of an argument. So there's value in the insult. Okay, there is something there that you're both touching upon in each other, and there's something that you each individually within yourself have to become aware of. It's a good thing. You are helping each other. Believe me. I can see that. I can feel that. It's a great thing. It's great to watch two such different people approaching and working with such different energies. Butt heads, I'm smiling. I'm really not laughing at your misfortune. I'm not.
No,
But I'm
it's good. It's
but
funny
I'm
because yes,
smiling because you're both going to get what I'm saying, and I'm not saying that because I know so well or anything like that. But just I'm not involved, so I can actually see it from the outside, and I can feel you guys.
The truth of the matter is each of our heart is in the right place. And I know that about Bill, and I believe that about Bill. I've watched many of his videos, been greatly inspired and uplifted by his cheery attitude. Uh, and many people have been pulled down sometimes by my sometimes not so cheery attitude of looking at difficult situations. And so the dialogue that's happening between us, I think, will be really interesting, and is interesting. But I had a
Yeah.
guy come here to determine my water situation when I lost water. We thought maybe the well
Oh
had
yeah, yeah,
collapsed, and he and I share a mutual friend who is a yoga teacher, and he greatly respects this person, and he recognized that I had the same kind of energy, and so we ended up
yep,
having a beautiful conversation at the end of our meeting of when he's in his truck ready to leave, and he has this conversation with me about energy and about how good it felt to connect with me and everything. And that's, you know,
yeah.
this is, we both have good energy, and actually we all have good energy if we
Yes. So
tap
if
into it.
if we take the how and the value out of it, then the passion, like in the education, the passion is there, you see. And
Yes,
this is what we're
yes.
all recognizing in each other. This is what we can all. You said in your video, I did watch your video earlier on. I managed to squeeze it in. You said, I wish we could all just get together on something. And when we take the value and the how out of it, what we have is passion and uniqueness, and that you, me, Bill, Aristos, so many people in the
Everybody.
circle that we sort of, there's so much of it there, and we're starting to recognize it, and we're all setting that afire and setting that ablaze, and sparks will sometimes fly. Yes, they will. They will do so very, very passionately. But that which we all have in common, and that which we will all unite on as humanity in the future, is passion, because we will all recognize each other's right to have passion, and that passion is the only real value there is, and that no material anything can have any value at all, but is just freely given, not even bartered. I have 2 apples and an orange, and that guy's got a banana. Hey man, I would really like a banana. Oh, thanks. Have you got apples? I like an apple. There's an exchange there, but it's no barter. There's no exchange of value in that. So if there's no exchange of value, then there's just this passion for this other person, this connecting.
you know,
We
it's
have a passion.
Yeah, it's interesting because I had to clean out a space by my water closet in my garage, and I had this washing machine which has been sitting in my garage unused for the last couple of years. And the next door neighbor had a problem with her phone and came over to use my phone, and she had her dog with her, and so she didn't want to go in the house. She used the phone in the garage, and there I had uncovered this washing machine sitting there. So when she finishes making her telephone call, she said, "Would you like to sell me this washing machine?" Because hers had just broke. And and I said, "Well, if you need a washing machine, I'll let you use this one. It's just sitting here. I'm not using it." So she was very surprised. I got the hand truck out, and she said, "Oh, I didn't expect anything so quickly." I took the hand truck and I said, "Here, you can use it. Just use it. It's fine." I was able to provide the value that she needed, and she wanted to pay me, and I said, "No, it's okay. I'm not using it. It's fine. You just go ahead and use it." She was
Yeah,
so happy and surprised at that.
yeah.
But
It's amazing how programmed we are. If the bee goes up to the flower, it doesn't stop at the opening of the flower just before the stamen, and it hangs there and says, "Do you take Mastercard or Visa?" And when it flies, it doesn't ask about money or payment, and then when it flies in, it just grabs the pollen, and it doesn't say, "What do I have to give you in return for this?" Because the very act of passionately getting the pollen is beneficial to both the bee and the flower, and it's
and
beneficial to
us,
humanity, and so it's beneficial to the whole cycle of life. So it's so hard to drop that conditioning of, even if you say, I hate the money system, it's all corrupt and it's all cabal and banks and there's a tapeworm in the system and it's just gone. It's just, I hate the money system, but we're still stuck on value, and this is when we get rid of the dreaded value, then we will stop judging our fellow man, because then everybody will be equal. Everybody can only truly be equal if they're allowed to be passionately themselves and if there is no value. Then
Yes.
passion is the only value. Are you passionate about breathing? Great. You have value as a human being. You're equal to everybody else. Have you got passion about your heart beating? Making music, painting, being a tinkerer, inventing a free energy machine, whatever it is. As long as you have passion, then, and this is the kind of world I believe that we will end up living in, where, like the honeybee, you don't ask for the exchange, but you just passionately do what you're driven to do by spirit, and that very act, that very action of passion will be beneficial not only to yourself but to the whole cycle of life.
That's a
And
beautiful place to end, Peter.
I
We've
think
gone over,
so. Yeah,
we've
yeah.
gone over the 30 minutes. We've talked about
Yes, we have.
passion and value is the theme of our conversation, and it's been a beautiful conversation. I didn't know you were going to bring Bill into it. I wasn't going to.
I know you weren't going to, but I had to, because I had something to say about it. I'm sorry. I was trying not to, but it actually did tie in with
Yes.
value and passion.
So
And
I appreciate you. I appreciate the conversations, and we will have more. And hopefully I'll
likewise,
even have
Ron.
another one with Bill. Hopefully he will even allow that. We'll
I'm
see.
sure that's I'm sure that's going to happen. I
So
passionately love all of you.
yeah, I love you, Peter, and bless you, and namaste. Thank you for taking time.
Namaste.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Ron. Bye bye.
Bye bye.